heaps of things you can do for free that allow you to reduce your print time and the material used. We're going to use an example of this multi-material keychain. These are our default settings. I'm going to optimize this right down. For less print time, we can actually get more parts. This isn't just good for the environment, but also good for your bank account. So number one, whenever we're optimizing anything, and this goes for slicing and business and like life or whatever, like if you're trying to improve anything, you need to first establish a baseline. You need to get some sort of metric, some sort of compass, right? Here, once we hit slice, go to filament or line type even, but I like to keep it on filament for multi-material because you can see like the different colors. It just looks nicer. But basically, you get a breakdown of everything. The total time is 6 hours here. So I'm going to go to my sheet and go, okay, that is 6 times 60 minutes. And then material wasted. So if I jump over to here, you can see that I've got the model material. And isn't this crazy, right? The total amount of material used for this model is 13.55 grams. You can see here where I'm hovering my mouse. If I look over to the right, 62 grams is being wasted as purge material. That is when it goes from a color swap, like it's swapping from like say orange to yellow, it needs to purge that material out. I'll chuck that into there. And then the amount of color changes, we can even put that in. Now, this is important because when we're optimizing, this actually determines how many times we need to actually purge. That is filament changes here, and that's set to 160. Put that in there. The number of parts is 1, and then the total cost, $1.29. The cost per part, it's just how much does it cost divided by how many parts we've got. But to start with, that is our baseline. We need to improve from here. Did you guys know that the amount of times that we purge here, we've got 160 purging sequences. The amount that it pushes out is actually dependent on the actual color that you select here, right? It's under purging volumes. So if I click on purging volumes here, you can see if I change from orange to white, that is how much filament I need to push out, and it's in millimeters cubed. That's a volume, so just a certain amount of volume. So the higher that number, the more material needs to be pushed out. But when it changes, say, from this kind of turquoise to orange, it only pushes out 388. So the actual color makes a difference. This is automatically calculated, right? So how do you actually get these colors? Most people say, oh, I've got white filament, right? So I'm just going to click on this and select white. That is the most pure white that you could possibly get, right? Now, there's a lot of ways to get hex colors, but let's say you are buying Bamboo Lab filament. You can scroll all the way down until you get to the hex codes in the downloads. You guys ever opened this before? Ivory white is pure white. That's what that hex code is. But bone white, and indeed, like if you have other whites, they're not all perfectly white. So if I was using this white, then my actual color is slightly different. So what I would need to do then is take this hex code and put it into Bamboo Studio. I would go here, go onto that white, and then I would change my color to match that. Now, the only problem is that at least for Windows, which is what I'm using, the operating system, I can't put in that code. It's an RGB that it's looking for. So all I have to do is just find a converter online, all right, put in that code and hit convert. So it's 203.198.184. There we go. And then I can click OK. So if I've got that as my white and I go back to purging volumes now, you can see instead of 500 here from orange to the white, it's around 400. It's reduced it by actually quite a large amount. That's going to make a massive difference to the amount of purging because that color is a little bit darker now. Doesn't have to purge as much when it's switching back to the white now. So that is one part of this. The other part of it is we have this purge volume multiplier, okay? So let's think about like what Bamboo Labs have done here, right? They've built the printers, they've built Bamboo Studio, they've got the filament and materials, they've got models that you can print. They've got everything you need to like get up and running, right? And they want you to have a really positive experience when you're printing multicolored parts. If you don't get the purging correct, when you're changing from orange to white, you might still have a little bit of orange left. when it's swapping colors here, the black and the yellow, there's still black left. It hasn't purged correctly there, right? That is why they give you this purge multiplier. So you can adjust how much of that purging actually happens. You can give it an extra 20%, or you can actually lower it. This is by default set to 1. And the reason that it's set to 1 is because it's trying to be conservative about how much purging you need to do. Basically, always, if you get the hex codes right, like I've just shown you, you can basically, in my experience, put this down to 0.5. And if you want to be a little bit conservative, 0.6. And you can see how I've changed that now, and these values have lowered again. So again, from orange to this white, it's 242. Whereas before, I think it was around 550 by default. It's basically halved, or a little under half, right? And then I can click OK. I'm going to get a totally different value, and we're going to record that in our table. So here we go. Much quicker to slice that time. We've got cost 0.88, 5 hours 25 is our print time. We changed the purge multiplier. We put it as 0.6, didn't we? Material wasted is 35.16 grams, coming down to almost half, which is amazing. Same amount of color changes, same amount of parts, and the cost was 88 cents for the whole thing. See that? So we've already made a massive win here. That is a really, really big one. The next thing to consider, we need to think about the actual layer height. So if I go back to the prepare tab here, I can click on my part and look at my settings. Under quality, you can see I've got 0.16. 0.16 millimeters is used for this small figurine to capture certain detail, but mainly it's used to reduce these little steps on the top surface. When you get up to these kind of curved flat edges, like it curves into like a flat region, you get these little steps here. And the 0.16 layer height allows us to reduce the amount of steps that we've got there. I've got another video on like how to fix this stepping effect, but a really big lever of this is the layer height. So the layer height is reduced to capture that detail. But what we actually can do with a part like this, especially if we're printing a lot, it's for a business, if you want to really dial it in and reduce the amount of filament and time that you're using, use a variable layer height instead. Put your base layer height to 0.2. And the reason that we do that is we're going to have bigger layers, so less filament changes. You know how we had the filament changes, though? We had a lot of them, 160 filament changes, right? To purge between colors. Bigger layer heights mean we don't do that as often. But we're going to have the issue of this stepping effect. And you can see it gives you like some sort of visualization here, right? On those top surfaces, you can see that we can actually see those steps here when I click on the variable layer height button. So what you need to do is come to the sidebar here, and you just left click slightly on those regions. So I'm just left clicking a little bit. They're going to change color a little bit. And I'm going to do it for the tail here. It goes slightly more green. And you can see on the left here, if I hover my mouse, just under my mouse, right on the right, sorry, you can see it says 0.17, 0.16. So I've lowered the layer height at those regions, right? You can see if I zoom in, they're slightly green. The only problem is that those changes in layer height are very sudden. You can see here when I zoom in, they're very sudden changes. So I just got to smooth it out a little bit by hitting this smooth button. It's as easy as that. And now look, I've got my 0.18 layer height right on the top here, but it slowly transitions down. And if I want that to be a bit lower, I can left click it a few times, hit smooth again, and now I've got the 0.16. So that is how you kind of make it smooth and so you don't get like a visual change between like different layer heights. But now we're going to have way less color changes. So I'll hit slice, the moment of truth. All right. So we got 135 changes. The cost is 0.77, and we've gone down to 4.5 hours for the print time. So let's put those values in here. Color changes, we actually won. We got way less. Number of parts is still the same, and then it's 77 cents. Boom. The other setting that we can change is purging into infill. So when it changes, it purges into this wipe tower, okay? What you can also do is purge into infill. So say, for example, when it's changing from orange to yellow, it might do a little purge here, but then it can like print some of the yellow infill on the inside. Even if there's still a bit of orange, it doesn't matter so much. And that setting is found here. You go to the settings here and you type in purge into objects infill. and we literally just turn that on. That's it. Now, for big parts, this is going to make more of a difference because you've got a bigger amount of infill. So this will actually give us more benefits for larger parts. If I hit slice now, you can see on the inside, now I've got this different colored pattern. So before, this is orange, this piece, and we've got yellow infill here. Now, not all of it will actually be yellow, but it's purging the yellow into that infill. That's what it's showing there. And because this part's quite small, it can only do that a small amount. It can't purge a lot of material in there because the part's actually quite small. So you can see we've taken a cent off our cost, and it's worth it, right? It's free. May as well do it. The print time's basically the same, so it hasn't done much. But if this part is really big, then it'll make a big difference. Or if we add multiples of these parts, right? And this is where the next section comes in, which is batch processing. Up until now, we've changed the settings just to optimize one part. But the biggest win that you can have with multi-material printing is when you're able to print multiple parts. And if I go and just copy a few of these and then hit slice, all those color changes that we did, they happen per layer, right? So I can do one color change, but print 3 different parts here. And you can see now 6 hours, it costs $1.14, and I've got 27 grams of filament wasted. So if I put this into my sheet now, so I've taken my cost without changing the printer, just by changing settings, and I'll get basically the same looking part from $1.29 to 38 cents, way less. The print time is slightly more from my default, but I get 3 parts instead of 1. Huge change. Now, the last bit is you change this to a different printer. Now, the reason that I put the X2D there, 2 nozzles means less purging. You're going to see that with the X2D, we have 2 nozzles. So the orange, for example, it can keep that in one of the nozzles. And every time it changes, every layer actually here has orange. So the orange can pretty much stay in one nozzle and the others can like swap. Or you can have like 2 colors. You can see here on the left, 2 colors in one nozzle and 2 colors in another. So it only needs to purge when if it's changing from orange to white, right? But if it's changing from orange to yellow or orange to turquoise, it just switches nozzles. It does like a very fast nozzle change, and then that's it. So if I go to my line type now, or I'll go to filament here, looks nicer. You can see that I've got the cost is way less again. So $1.07 for 3 parts, and then 5 hours 15. Let me put this all into our table. So 5 hours 15 minutes. So less print time. Great. The purged material, 22 grams. It's even less. Same amount of color changes. And the cost is $1.07. So we've taken it down even less. Now, this doesn't look like a big change. Again, for bigger parts, it is like it adds up more and more. The big change here is the print time. It's like way less print time. That's still obviously a saving for the purging, but we got much less print time, so much faster. So the output is way higher again. So just considering if you're going to be doing a lot of multi-material printing, maybe think about upgrading to a printer that has 2 nozzles. Yeah, that'll get you a lot of wins there. That's it for multi-material printing.